Right. Yeah. So basically, he'll be drinking the Guinness while you're doing the presenting. There's to be having a Guinness out there. Yeah, it's nice to see you all here. I hope you're all staying safe and well. You must be. You were here, so that's great stuff. Got quite a bit of change coming up actually in the near future. We are looking at developing the Q100 satellite equipment with the help of Carsten and possibly Phil Evans, and we'll be setting up that equipment shortly, hopefully. So if you've got any spare loose change in your pocket, just don't let our treasurer know because he'll spend it. Let me know. We'll send it in the right direction. Yeah, yeah, we'll spend it. But we'll spend it on the right stuff. He'll just take a one-way ticket back to us. Yeah, but nice to see you all. I don't think there's a contest coming up. Is it this weekend? It's next weekend. SSB one, I believe. Um, from Common Barn Farm for 24 hours. 48. Blimey. I hope it's fine up there. Because it can get. I know it can get rough up there. I've been up there when it's blowing a flipping gale. I'm thick with snow, so it's. Uh, I don't know. We got. I think the only one time I've been stuck in the snow up there is when we got the Worcester mast, and he delivered the Worcester mast and left it halfway down the flipping hill because he couldn't get up there, and we had to get the farmer to take it with his tractor down to the farm down in Reno, and we got it up later. I think Jeff took it up later on. But yeah, it does get a bit it gets a bit deep up there. It drifts a lot as well, doesn't it? Anyway, that's enough of the winter. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll let Pete get on with it. I think Pete's first on here. Pete, it's, get the uh, get the operator. Just can't get the staff these days, can you? Yeah, just be aware, anybody that's listening and watching. This is the first run that we've had. We're in on Sunday, beginning as a trial, and it appeared to work, in inverted commas. So what we're doing, this is the first one tonight. So please bear with us if there aren't any, for want of a better description, cock-ups. Okay, thanks a lot, and I'll hand you over to Pete. Good evening, everyone, in the room and over the web. We'll manage. We'll manage. We'll manage. So yes, welcome, and we thank you back at the program. I've been here for some time. I'm one piece and presenting tonight with Tom from their review. And I said earlier, here and Empire Picture, family, sending regards, here in sports. So, before I'll stand a bit closer. Is that better? Okay. How's that? Is that better? How's that? Hear me? Right. Okay. Right. So before we continue, if Roy, just click on that for me, please. Let's just do a sound check. Make sure everyone can hear it. Right. So hopefully you heard that. Anybody didn't? Let us know. Right. So tonight we're going to talk about the expedition that Tom, Karen, and myself undertook in June this year, and we went to Tory on more on the later. So next slide, please. Right. So the presentations last about an hour or so. Depends on. We'll start off We'll split the team some myself, I can say. I'll talk about the expeditions just to confirm what. Right, I've now got a microphone up my nose. So I'll talk about the expeditions, just so we're all clear what we mean by the expedition. Then Tom will talk all about the Tory Island, where we are. Give you background information, bit of history, bit of island life, bit of where what it's like to live in. And at the end of that, I've got a short film. It's only a 2-minute film taken by one of the islanders that will actually show you what the island looks like from a drone. It's quite impressive. So at the end of that film, we'll take any questions if there are any about the island. So that's really just setting the scene with the island. And then after the questions, we'll then go into why we were there, about the station, what the station, how it's set up. Tom will tell us all about the antennas we used, and he'll cover the operation and the contacts we made. And then we'll run a film. We took a film last year. We always tend to take photographs and get shots of things. And there's always something in the film that gives us reason to smile. And at the end, we'll take questions. So basically, there's 2 points of questions. One at the end of the if you like, the travelogue about the island, and then one at the end of the technical bit, the station bit. So without further ado, next slide, please. So, introduction to the expeditions. Well, I'll start off with the why, the where, and how to do it. So, probably best to start with the definition so we're on the same thing. So this is from Wikipedia. Now I know internet is not always the place to go, but this is where I found the definition. So I hope you can see it clearly, but I'll just read it out quickly. So the expedition is an expedition to what is considered an exotic place by amateur radio operators, the ex-listeners, perhaps because of its remoteness, access restrictions, or simply because there are very few radio amateurs within that place. And it says this could be an island, a country, or even a particular spot on the geographic grid. And just for the avoidance of doubt, exotic is very different, strange, or unusual. I'm not saying that we actually have an island as raw as that, but some people do. Next slide, please. So, exotic locations. Well, here's 2. In 2006, Peter Island, 3 Yankee 0 X-ray. A group of amateurs went there, and it's 450 kilometers north of Antarctica. It was in the middle of nowhere, and you can see it was an ice island, and they took all the kit with them. The ship couldn't actually land; it had to stand off the shore, and they had a helicopter on board ship to take them to the island. And they were on there for about 12, 15 days, something like that. And they operated, they did, I think it was 86,000 contacts in that time. But there were also, I think there were 12 operators going full time. The other extreme is Bravo Sierra 7 Hotel, Scarborough Reef. And this was from 2007. And that's in the South China Sea, 200 kilometers west of the Philippines. And they actually ran the expedition using, it was a reef, but they used 4 rocks. And you can see them sat on it. That was at high tide on one of the rocks. The operators were sheltered from the sun, and they sat there on their own with a generator, with an antenna, and they achieved 49,000 contacts. So, when we talk about the expeditions, there's quite a range. So those are 2 extremes. Now let's talk about what we did. Next slide, please. So before we do, let's just say why we do it. I mean, you say, well, why would we go to the extreme of doing that? Because both those 2 expeditions, we talk hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we do it because we enjoy the challenge. And within the current levels of EMI, we like to go to places with low RF noise, and it makes such a difference. That's why we got the common arm for doing their contests. Compared to downtown Stockport, downtown Poynton, where I live, Holland Barn is different. Yeah, it's very quiet. And when you go further afield on a motorway, remote island, it's even quieter. And also, part of the expedition is to go and activate a location of interest. Because you're not doing it for yourselves to enjoy it, you're doing it for others, other great actors who prefer to maybe stay at home if they've not contacted an island or an area with the challenge for them to try and work it. And people that collect iota references, well, again, become very popular. And obviously, when you're on the island, you can meet the locals, you can find an island life and their culture. And some of the places they've been to, it's quite interesting to see how you think, well, it's quite remote and very remote. It's the opposite. They create wonderful life. And you begin to think, well, the stresses and strains of modern life, sometimes it's probably better to be an apple. But anyway, the Tom will talk about it. And the last of all, it's an adventure. And it's fun to do. We always enjoy ourselves. And obviously, we need to do what we can. Because it's too long, isn't it? We need to do it. So, having decided. All right, I need to keep talking. Do I need to touch it something? How close is that? I'm not going to swallow it if I get any closer. Okay, right. Tom will have no trouble. Tom will be able to sit down and stay where he is. But I need to stand quite close. Right, so how do you do at the expedition? Well, very simple. I just put a few bullets down here just to help you put it into sort of a categorize it. So the first thing is decide if it's a solo or a team event. You could do the expedition on your own. You could just go somewhere and set up and enjoy yourself. Or you may want to do a team event. The three of us tend to do it, but it helps when there's three. It's a bit safer because if something happens, you've got two of us to help you out. And also share the cost. And it is just free. We hope we get on well. You're then going to choose where and when to go. Now, obviously, you don't be going somewhere in the northern hemisphere during the winter. You may want to, but you may want to go somewhere where the weather's fairly mild because you don't want to bring antennas up in bad weather, unless you really want to. But we tend to be fair weather sailors. We tend to keep it in probably the middle of the year. You also need to pick somewhere to stay. You could stay in a tent, I guess. You could sleep in the back of your car, but we like a little bit of comfort. So we always pick somewhere that's got a decent bed and somewhere we can sit and eat and set up a station, a base station. You then have to plan how to get there. Routes, crossings if you're going across the sea, even air flights if you can do that and waiting fine. You then have to pick what to take. Now, you could say, well, I just take the shack. But when you look at what you've got in your shack, you may think, well, actually, one might not be able to carry all that. So you have to then decide. You also need to think what power you're going to run. And that all dictates what you take. And then last of all, and this is something Tom will relate to, you need to agree the operating schedule in advance. Now, that seems fairly obvious. But I know Tom will tell you that he's been on an expedition where one guy took a linear and they took their own rigs. And then this guy decided to operate on his own, and the other two couldn't get the look in. So they went to the pub. So when they came back to the expedition, this guy worked thousands. Tom and his colleague, tens. Virtually nothing. So we have a basic principle and schedule. We tend to do like half an hour on, and then between the three of us, and take turns. And it seems to work out well that way. Because especially if you get a pile up, half an hour on a pile up is probably enough. Next one. Right, so Tory Island. I'll hand over to Tom at this point. He'll tell you all about Tory. Oh, right, that's cool. Right. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that slide says Tory Island. That's where we're going. Next slide, please.
Okay, right. Take a look at the big map on the right hand side there. Tory Island. It's an island 5 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide, and it's about an hour run on a very small fishing boat actually from the port on Donegal. And if you remember that, it's actually the North Atlantic, so there's nothing stopping the waves coming all the way from over America. They can be quite big. So we have a rough time crossing there many a time. In fact, it can be blocked. We can't accept effectively by the boat back here. So it's a bit of a hit you're going to get across or not. Tory Island, in fact, has been there for a very long time. In fact, as long as the rest of the British Isles. Its population now is 144, and it's actually a very small population compared to what it was, say, in the 1800s, 1841, the population was about 400. At that time, it was a lot more agricultural. We used to run a system which I call Scotland the Run-Rate system, but I think down here it's called the Run-Dale system. Anybody ever heard that term? Run-Dale? Where the land is actually falling out shared, and basically you get the land passes out to all the villagers between somebody. In fact, where you see the soil goes like that, that's the very fact. That's what it's called the run break system. Ireland, well, that's the system that we use. It's not really it's suitable for that sort of very arid and, well, not really arid, actually, rough agriculture. It's not really good for combine. It's open for combine harvest. Can't grow much on it's heavy land to work in. But it did support a population of 400 in 1841, not that different. Well, I think the population of about 40,000. Okay, the land is treeless, streets of wildlife, so nothing, no trees, so everything. Okay, so let's try another slide. Right. Okay, it's got a great history actually. These places always do. In fact, it goes back into mythology. Actually, you had Valar of the Evil, the king of the Formorians, in fact, and there were other tribes there as well. I thought for a moment that it, yeah, so the king of the Formorians actually, but they were replaced by somebody I think called the Nambibian. But the interesting thing about the island, Tory Island, is very interesting because I don't know how much you and the guys know about ancient history, but the guy who's Christian and Scotland is called St. Columba. Where did he come from? He came from Ireland, and that was his island. Colm City, Colm City, Colm City. And basically, he came across to the boat and went to Ireland. That's how the Christianity came to Scotland. So Scotland was Christianized by this fella actually. Uh, uh, he um, he actually died. He founded a monastery on Tory Island, in fact, the monastery lasted. It was quite late before it was actually destroyed by, in fact, some of Queen Elizabeth's troops in sort of that area, Elizabethan period, where they plundered a lot of the Irish coast after that time. And basically, that monastery was in existence till 1595. But Columba was around actually in the sort of early 5th century. So so basically, Tory Island being a wild and rugged and isolated place. It figured in many of the variants. In fact, they figured in the 1608 again. In fact, that was King James VI, the fifth, after he replaced the Queen Elizabeth I who died. He had expeditions against the Irish. And there was basically in those days, we didn't mess around. You had an invasion, a lot of people were killed. So rebellion could never really go that way. And again in 1798, there was the Battle of Tory Island, the French and British fleets, when that was the end of the First Napoleonic War, when the British Navy defeated French off Tory Island. So a lot of history that way. In 1914, HMS Audacious, which was a dreadnought class battleship, was sunk by a mine completely made off Tory Island, and some sinking was kept secret until the. But not that different to what happened off Orkney, because the General Kitchener, who used to stand there and say to England, with his cap on and stuff like that, he was actually some of one of the more modern heading orders. It wasn't that self-inflicted, but no, they ran yes, right. So they had but when Kitchener was drowned after they couldn't do dispatch. But there were photographs taken of HMS Audacious, which was sinking. I think they got them by First World War standard. There weren't many people lost. That was probably less than 100. That was small deal for World War I. So it really was most of the guys were there. Anyhow, what else is on the island? We talked, remember, about St. Columba or St. Paul Silly, and that's his tower, the bell tower of his monastery. That's practically in his village. Bell tower. The other cross is quite interesting because that, in fact, is a type of cross that I think actually was found in the top in India. It's that type of design, it's a cross without thing on, and that is also in the village after we saw that part of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So it has loads of monuments of that sort around. Anyway, that's the island history. Actually, it wasn't just on the personal side of things. People talk about like on the Irish side, they would talk about the famine, big spot life. But in actual fact, Tory Island itself was the wing today was what it was. So we're suffering from the iPhone. We're not. Oh, no. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So I'll have to stop reading that. Right. Here we are. Then is that better? Okay. Right. Then. So let's try another slide. Oh, I can't believe that. Well, here we are. Right. Now, this is a very interesting tale. The stories of the sea and Tory Island go on all the time. The sinking of HMS Wasp, 1884. This is one of these things that we should be made into a film and put on something like Freeview, on mysterious tales, unsolved mysteries. Imagine the heading that, you're like, HMS Wasp was a Banterer-class gunboat built for the colonial service. Remember, in fact, in the 1800s, Britain was a colonial power. Remember, we had a navy going out all the way to Hong Kong, all the way around the Middle East and stuff. There wasn't a harbour in the world that didn't have a British ship. And how did we maintain peace? It was called gunboat diplomacy. So we built lots of gunboats. HMS Banterer was HMS Wasp was a gunboat. She had a steam engine and sails, probably a few guns. But in actual fact, when they were used around Britain, they were used for other services as well, such as bringing out supplies and stuff to remote areas, and of course delivering police and soldiers when there were any trouble. And she was used for that. So in 1884, in common with the way that the government in those days used to take care of hardship when the going was getting bad, not quite the same as nowadays, we would send a gunboat to evict any island that we wouldn't pay their rent. So they have that boat. Good way of sorting out problems, no problem in those days. Anyway, the ship struck a reef off Tory Island, lighthouse. And, of course, the doubt remained as to what on earth had happened to this ship. This is where the story gets into. There were at the time, there were a lot of reasons why it could have happened. The first one was, did the lighthouse not work? What had the lighthouse been disabled? For example, the local people may have decided that they didn't want this eviction to take place on this island where the Wasp was going, so they just simply cut the light off. Possible, but I thought, I don't know, no way they would be. Even if somebody was standing there with a lantern or the thing at night, So I don't think that's the answer, actually. Anyway, the next one was it the navigational error on the part of the ship? The officers were all in the bed. Who on the bridge were junior people who were on the sail, sailing between Tory Island and the mainland, which in fact was the so the ship go on. It should have been outside the island, not inside the island, inside the island and coast of the mainland of Ireland. So, and she was under sail, we didn't have the steam engine on. And the other theory was, well, it was just like it. And in fact, before they knew it, they'd actually gone through. So that was the other possibility. Now, the most interesting one of the lot was the Cushing stone. Ireland is full of mythology, and so are all the remote islands. I wanted to tell you the same about where I come from. And basically, there was this stone, which in fact was again related to St. Columba. And basically, it was a Cushing stone. And if you really dislike somebody, you could put a curse on people. But anyway, they used to have pilgrimages around the island and to activate or deactivate the stone and the local people. And the one theory was that the locals had taken a dislike to HMS Wasp on a crew and activated the curse. So the stone mysteriously went missing after the sinking of the ship, the cursing stone. So the question then remained was it an act of providence? Was it an act of carelessness on the part of the crew? Or was it an act of sabotage on the part of the lighthouse keepers? And we'll never know. So that was poor old HMS Wasp. There were 5 or 6 survivors off that boat, actually. There weren't that many survivors. And they were well looked after by the local people, actually. The people that did make it ashore, actually, were well looked after. So I suspect, actually, it was probably negligence and neglect on the part of the bridge crew, actually, that caused the ship to run into the island. Anyway, let's try another... Let's try another slide. Right, okay, island life then. Tory Island. Okay. It used to be quite famous for its fish, pollock, coalfish, cod, mackerel, and grenard, etc. That fleet's all gone now, and there's angling charter boats and stuff like that. But in fact, that kind of fishing's all finished. And I think if you look at one of the photographs, the one on the bottom left here, that's about all that's left of the fishing fleet. It's lying up on the shore rotting. I suspect actually a lot of that is due to funny enough, the European Union, in fact, send round factory ships these days, and the Spanish are mentioned as being one of the chief fisheries around the Irish coast. And it may well be that they pick it up. The other one that's not mentioned on the chart there is actually lobsters. There used to be a massive of lobsters actually harvested along that coast. Again, that's not done anymore. On the island these days, they have a weekly helicopter service onto the mainland. It's used for medical transfers. In fact, it's a big machine. It's something like our air-sea rescue that we use in this country, actually. The same type of aircraft. I don't know what make they are, Sikorsky's or some sort. And of course, there's the famous Daily Ferry, which in fact you can see there on the bottom right hand of the screen. That boat is like what I call a modified scene netter, and it's got like 2 decks, and you can be on the upper deck or the lower deck. It doesn't really make much difference because they all swing around quite a bit, and the crossings were, shall we say, exciting, but you definitely could not. You know, I've traveled on ships all my life since I was about 14 or 15 and done Pent and Firth crossings, and they're considered to be as bad as you can get in the British Isles. That boat actually made the Pent and Firth seem quite soft. Yeah, it was, it really, we were really tilting over. It was like the 45-degree job, you know. And when we were crossing, and of course, the other big problem about this is that they don't have, there's no cars on the island worth speaking about. There's 1 or 2 vehicles, like small tractors and diggers, you know, for digging drains and stuff, but they don't have any car, there's no car as such. Although I think we did see one of there, yeah. They have to use a barge to actually bring the cars over, so it's just not convenient to get cars onto the island at all. And it's probably best that way, actually. You don't have to worry much about getting run over on the street when you're coming home from the pub at night. Okay, so there you go. Try another slide. Okay, right. Very active social life. We enjoyed this, actually. Yeah, we certainly did. Country dancing. That country, the second one in from the left is not actually Peter and Kieran dancing. I had to look twice at that. But you can see there that they're stepping it out quite nicely. Country dancing in the community centre. In fact, there's a hotel and a bar, of course, art gallery, school of artists. There was now we boozed in the, what was the name of it? There was the hotel and the community centre where we drank. Yes, that's right. Yes, indeed. And club, the club. Yes, that's right. Great social people, and the local people love to come and talk to you. I'm convinced that's part of the blarney. You know, basically they spot somebody that's not from about these places. And they come along, and you get involved in very technical talks, don't you, on Irish independence and stuff. I try to keep out of that kind of conversation. They do. I've never heard that one, charming the note out of your wallet before. Yeah, that's right. Yes, but in return for you get a few guineas. Is that a good conversation? That's right. The locals use the Irish language. It's part of the, what do they call it, the Gaeltacht that Kieran talked about. I think it's called the Gaeltacht. They use Irish routinely, although I don't think I heard it used at all. It was used more on Arranmore. I heard it more down in the pier at Arranmore than we did on Tory Island. It's designated an important bird area. It's a breeding ground for a very rare bird these days called the corncrake. And the corncrake is recognizable. That's him over on the far right-hand side there. But you will always spot a corncrake before you can see it. because it makes a sound. It's distinguished by its voice. The corncrake, yeah. So it's, but it is quite rare in Britain now. It's got the island actually has its own power station these days. Although there's only 166 people living on it, it's got like 3 diesel engines, and they've got their own water treatment, and like the houses in the village and stuff have got pipe water and all the rest of it, some treatment. So it's and Pete says there, high-speed internet to encourage remote working. So it's a good place to live actually if you were, say, designing electronic circuits or something where you can do it from looking out over great scenery. So there you have a few pictures. So there's the corncrake, the pub, the dancers, and that machine there that's being studied by, I suspect that's Kieran and me actually. That is a potato digger, as used probably at the end of the 19th century, and it would have been pulled by a horse, I guess. Yeah. But strange to say, nowadays nobody cultivates much land at all. In fact, there's no plowing or anything done. So there is, that's really a sort of summary of the island life. Try another slide and see what comes next, Roy. That's it. Okay, fine. Right.
Like I said, this is a trial version, and expect hold-ups here and there. Hopefully, we'll get it all sorted, ready for the 1st of November for the AGM. And it's a learning curve for us at present, but we will get there. We definitely will get there. It's just a case of finding the right little digit to click on, so we can get the audio coming through as well on the film. But please, just talk amongst yourself for the time being. I don't think you've got time to put the kettle on, but if you've got a bottle at the side of you, pour another glass out. Yeah. Yeah. Tory Island's just floating off across the Atlantic for the time being. Yeah. On your share. On your share, when you're sharing it, you can actually share audio as well. How many more of us? All those that are on remotely, don't leave us. We haven't finished. We've still got a bit to go yet. So just bear with us while we just sort this out, and then we'll be on our way again. It looks a very, very remote island, that does. I wonder what it's like when the storms get up or to get the winds coming across from the Atlantic there. A guinea pig for what? Hey, good on you, Andrew. See? Put that one. How's that? Can you still hear me, Nigel? Can you still hear me on that? Can you hear me on it? On there? All right, go away. We've got a few comedians here. Yeah. Yeah. Is it? We're nearly there. We're nearly there. We've got 3 on it, run it. What you might have noticed is he's been running this. Cisco actually changed it. Right, right, we're back. You're back with us. Before we get on to planning, you can hear me okay on the mic, right? So that was all about the island, and we'd say you can see why we chose Tory. It's very remote, ticks all the boxes for remoteness. Where you saw the little thing that said the cottage, that was right at the end of the harbour. So we literally just a walk off the boat, and they were at a cottage, and then probably another 100 foot to the right hand side was the pub. So and then a bit further on was a little shop. So everything you could hope for on an island. So before we then get in, we're now going to go and talk about I'm going to talk about the radio side of things now. But before we get there, are there any questions for either me or Tom on what you've seen so far? Kieran chose it. Yeah, sorry, if you heard that, the question was who chose the accommodation. So it came about. Let me just go back a bit. When we were in Arranmore, because with the contest group, we were going to Arranmore several times. Whilst we were there, a Belgian guy, ON6 guy called Fred, suddenly turned up at the lighthouse where we were staying on Arranmore. And the reason he turned up was because he was trying to get to Tory Island. Now, we'd not heard about it at that point.
And he started trying to do it, but trying to get there, but the boats weren't sailing because the sea was too rough. So he ended up staying a few, half an hour or so at our lighthouse. Unfortunately, there wasn't a spare seat for him to operate, but he had his own kit anyway. And he went and worked from the sports pavilion down in the village at Arranmore. And he did okay. He did CW whilst he was there. But that just left a thing in their mind that, oh, this Tory Island sounds interesting. And it was Kieran that followed it up and said, we fancy going to Tory Island. So he did the location. He found that cottage on Airbnb. And the lady who runs it, called Anne-Marie, and he liaised with her, and straightforward. It's just very easy to book, Ballard. Any other questions? I can't hear the. Is that the question? Is that the only accommodation on the island? Well, no. It's the only Airbnb that I know about. There was the hotel that had, but that. A lot more expensive, I guess. There was a hotel there that probably had, I don't know, half a dozen rooms or something. There were people staying there. Because don't forget, whilst we were there, in June, it was fairly quiet. But I believe in the summer holidays, June, July and August, it gets quite busy. People go over there with families for the day, or they go and stay. So it can get quite populated. And it's a very good place for bird watchers. You'll see that some of those cliffs you saw, a lot of the birds... I don't know what they are, but a lot of birds do actually nest around there. And there's some fantastic film on the internet about Tory and the birds. Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah. And you the other thing to say about the place is you could tell by the landscape that it's pretty deserted. And therefore, apart from the high-speed internet, which didn't seem to interfere with us, it was relatively quiet. Any other questions? Nothing from the web? Right, okay, let's move on then. Right, so if you remember back to the beginning, I said we talked about the where, the why, and the what. Let's now talk about the how. How do you then turn your aspiration to go to a location into a reality? So first thing is, as most of us are aware of in our lives, involves a plan. Probably in the current climate, the Prime Minister could do a bit of tuition on that. But by the way, let's not go there. Stick with planning on the expedition. So next slide, please. So very simply, if you're planning for radio activities, with Tory Island especially, the equipment has to be carried by hand. You can't take cars, as Tom mentioned. So that really does limit what you can take. And again, it limits, if you are on your own, even less. But when there's three of you, it does help. You can split the load a bit. And you'll see that we devise ways of moving heavy bits of kit safely without wrecking our backs. The other thing you need to consider is, if you're going to stay somewhere, say in a cottage as we did, you probably want a fixed operation arrangement, because you don't know what the weather's going to be like. So you may want to, if the weather's bad, you may want to go to the cottage. We also found that whilst we were getting ready in the morning, having breakfast, that it was a good time to get on the radio, or last thing at night, just before we either went to the pub or came back from the pub. We'd put the rig on and we'd work a few. And Nigel will vouch for that. We made a good contact with Nigel. And then the big advantage, if you're going to a remote place, especially one that's near the sea. Let me go back to the big. Lost our picture here. What's happened there, Roy? Oh, I see. Anyway, I'll keep talking. You can, as long as you can see the screen. So, especially if you're near the sea, or you want to consider what you're going to take for portable operation, and that involves power supplies such as like batteries and portable antennas and things you can put up and take down, especially if you work from the beach. And then once you've got your stations thought through, you then think, well, what other kit do we take? And obviously tools hammers and stuff, and one of our. All right, there was just a short break whilst we find the presentation. Right, we're going round again. Yeah, we'll try and find the presentation. Oh, we found it. Right, now let's go to presentation mode. Click on that. There we go. Oh, good old Asa. That's what we're seeing. Oh, we're back again. Right. So, we've covered the kit. We've covered the basic equipment. And of course, if you're hand carrying stuff, there's a limit to what you take, because you could take some kit, but then you may think, well, I want to take some spares. And sometimes one of our members will say, well, you can never have enough. And I'll just walk around. And so we'd typically say, so what else do we need, Tom?
You can never have enough rope.
Straight from the Dr. Rope's mouth. So yes, we have to ration what we take. But it's down to you what you think you need. 1 year, I just by chance put a soldering iron in and a bit of solder, just because it was part of my toolkit. And as it turned out, when we arrived at the place, the first night, switched on, the microphone didn't work. The PTT wire had broken. First thing we do is repair it with a soldering iron. So you've got to it's a balance between what kit you take, support equipment, and how much you can carry. And then, in our case, if you're going to someone's accommodation, you do need to really check that you're okay put antennas up, because there's no use turning up there and them saying, well, no, you're not putting that in my garden. So you need to check, and that was all done before we went. So bit of planning, bit of thought needs to go through. But bottom line is, think about what you want to achieve, think about what the minimum you want to achieve, and come up with a plan for that, and then think of what you'd like to achieve and what you can carry. And then you'll be somewhere in between the two. Next slide, please. Right, so that's a group of photographs picking what we have to take. So the centre one is the middle one, where we do our planning, and we meet up at Kieran's, start with a cup of coffee, go through lists, and the top right we have lists of what we need to take, lists of what we need to carry, lists of what we want for the beach, lists of what we want for the cottage, personal items and things like that. Put it all on the list so you don't forget, because when you come to pack up, if you've forgotten something, then, well, too late. So once we've convinced ourselves we know what we're taking, we then load up, and we use these. This is what I was saying about how to minimize and make it easy to carry. We invested in some very simple little trolleys, trucks, only about 20, 30 quid each, not expensive. And we borrow some boxes from the contest group that we use when we go to Ironmore, very rigid boxes. So when you fill one of those with kit, and you put the bits of aerial poles and bits of other things you need in your own backpack, it's quite handy to tow. You can probably tow quite easily 50k, can't you? Really, it's that, all right. There's an issue when you come to load it into on the boat, but there's always people around to help you. But it's very easy to be able to put a backpack on your back and then pull that behind you on a trolley, so you can take quite a bit of kit. Bottom left is, what radio do you take? What radio? Well, anything from an FT817, somewhere in between the 100-watt rig, or something that's a bit bigger. I don't know. It's just a challenge. So we elected this time to take an ICOM 706, which is one of mine, and Kieran's FT897. Both quite happily work off batteries, both 100 watts, and easy to operate. And then when you think you've got it all sorted, go down the pub and convince yourself you've thought of everything. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Yes, go. Question from Tom.
Yes, I'm trying to think. What's the name of the pub again that we do all our big thinking in?
The 3 Tons in Hazelgrove Grove. Yeah, they're used to us now. We walk in looking like radio amateurs, and they just serve us beer. Leave us to ourselves. Next slide, please. Right, so that was the kit. Once you've thought about the planning of the kit, now how are you going to get there and where are you going to stay? Next slide. So this is the route we took. We were going via Holyhead. That's where the boat goes from. Holyhead to Dublin, and then straight up in a northwest route up to place. Well, we decided to stay at Dunlow to start with. Oh, back a bit. Back one. Right. Stay at Dunlow, simply because it's a heck of a drive, and well, you've probably got an hour and 2 hours to Holyhead, 2 hours crossing, 4 or 5 hours up through there. By the time, I mean, Kieran did all the driving, so by the time you get to actually the top, I mean, we set off at 7 o'clock in the morning, don't we? Quite early. By the time you get to there, it's getting on for tea time, and you don't really want to be then trying to get on a boat and get across. So we stay over, and it's a hotel there, quite handy. So we have a nice stay in Dunlow, they call it. And the next day, the benefit, we get the early morning ferry. We get the first ferry out of Magaretti, it's pronounced. And that's about a 45-minute crossing to the island. Coming back, sat-nav in Ireland is not really the most reliable. Several times we were driving down roads that didn't appear on the sat-nav. And in one case, when we came back, it took us all around the houses. And instead of going south-east, we were going south. And then we were going east. And then we were going south. And eventually we just gave up on the sat-nav and just headed for Omagh, I think it was, and then followed it down. But yeah, it's a fair old trek. And again, it's Kieran travelling all the time. Yeah, it's quite comfortable. 3 of us fitting in his car quite comfortably. Next slide, please. Right, here's the accommodation. As I say, it was Airbnb, 3-bed detached house next to the harbour, right on the harbour. You literally walk off the boat and 100 yards, and there it is. The stone floor, nice area, kitchen, big table. We could put our kit on. And over near the window, put the rig on. Now the base station was there. The owner, Anne-Marie, strange, lives on the mainland and comes over on the ferry when there's a changeover. So we actually met her on the ferry, and she's very, very amenable, very helpful, very good local knowledge. I think the place before it was turned into an Airbnb, it was a gift shop, and then possibly a bakery or something like that before. It's got a history like all these places. And on the right-hand side of the building, it's the original building that's the walls are anything but straight. They're all original. But the left-hand side was built fairly recently, let's say in the last 50 years. So very comfortable, yeah. The stairs. All right, stop. I was going to mention it, but I'll let Tom mention the stairs.
Very draw attention to the center photograph on the slide there. In fact, showing the stair. I'd never seen a stair quite like that before. And when you've had 3 or 4 pints of Guinness, actually, and you're coming in the evening, having to climb that stair to go up to bed, actually, can be quite challenging.
I found it more difficult coming down because you could see the steps. I mean, the steps do go across, but one side is wider than the other, so it's a case of when you're going up, you need to start with your right foot. And coming down, I think you can't remember it, is you start with the left foot, I think, coming down. But yeah, it is that you have to really think. So yeah, those stairs in Guinness don't go well. But fortunately, we had no accidents. Not that I know of, anyway. Next slide, please. Right, costs. We thought we'd cover this because someone may be interested. The bottom line is the costs are what you want them to be. If you want to go short distance, stay in a tent, stay sober, you can do it very cheaply. We took the view that, well, we're going to enjoy ourselves, and it's got to cost a bit of money, but heck, we'd rather have a bit of luxury. So we took the Irish ferry, We went on what is known as the Swift, which is the quickest crossing. It's the, I call it catamaran. Is it catamaran? But we always go in the club lounge. Oh, la-di-da. But you get, the thing is, you go in the club lounge, you get food there, and we had a very good breakfast on the way, and we did the same on the way back. So it does have benefits. For those of you that have not been through Dublin, there's a toll you have to pay going through the tunnel, and then there's one or two tolls on the road you have to pick up, but not much, but just the odd couple of euro here and there. The ferry costs us €75 return. Pretty straightforward. That's the one that goes from Magarity to Tory Island. But the fuel in Kieran's car came to about £240. I think we filled up twice, I think. But we split the expenses 3 ways. So Kieran keeps all the money, splits it all and pays the stuff, and Tom and I just pay what we have to. That's why Kieran's been able to have a holiday. Next slide, please. Accommodation, well, again, but as I said, to give Kieran a break and so we could get the early morning ferry, we stayed at Dunlow, £100 a night. Tory Island was quite reasonable for 3 nights, I think it was, Tuesday through Thursday. That was £300 for 3 of us. Not bad, £100 each. Coming back, we decided to stay in Dublin, which was an overnight in Dublin. And we thought it was a cheap hotel. I think it was actually more than that. I think we paid 175, didn't we? I think they saw us coming with that. But anyway, it was very comfortable, far too good for us. But yeah, we didn't take any food with us as such. We bought food from a local shop because we like to give the local economy some contribution. But yeah, we have breakfast. We generally have a pretty good breakfast just to set us up for the day, and then we'll have the classic cheese and ham sandwich for lunch, and then dinner in the hotel. There was a kitty for food and drinks, which Kieran tells me is top secret, especially the drinks bit. Next slide, please. Right, so let's talk about radio. Let's talk about the station. So we're going to do a fixed station. We're going to do a portable station. So let's click on to the next one, please. So the fixed station, right? Mains powered using a 30 amp switch mode power supply. Straight with one I bought through eBay. I've got about 3 or 4 of them. They're fairly cheap. They weren't expensive, but it's just a very good and reliable power supply that gives us 30 amps. And probably only need 15, 20 for what we're doing SSB, but it came in handy because it also used it for charging the batteries. We took Tom's G5 RV antenna, which you can see in the lower picture. That was a view from the kitchen window. To the right is the cemetery, so it's very quiet. But that was G5 RV. There was a power line. There was a power line running parallel to it. It didn't seem to interfere much, but we're okay with that. We used either the FT or the ICOM rig, depending on which was nearest. And then we had a simple PC notebook and used a wind test logger. We'd also taken an ATU and a power meter with us, which proved handy that because we had to, on a couple of bands, we had to tune up, didn't we? We weren't quite getting out. But fixation, nice and comfortable. You're in the cottage, your kettle's to one side for cups of tea and food, and there's Tom knocking off the contacts. But straightforward. So fixation is something you'd probably have, cut down version of what you'd have at home, and something so fairly straightforward. Next slide, please. Right, the portable one. Now, this needed a bit of thinking. I mean, we've done this a few times, so we do know what works and what doesn't. So it's battery powered. Now, this time we decided we're going to run 2 stations because we weren't sure of conditions, and we thought, right, we did a previous expedition we did work very well on 20, but let's have a go on 15 because we thought, it might be okay. So we had 2 stations. One was the ICOM, the other was the ASU. The AC used LiPo batteries, which are 7.4 volts, 5 amp hour batteries. We used 2 of them, with a couple of diodes, just so that they wouldn't charge each other, and also just drop them down a bit within the range of the rig. I mean, when you have the diodes in there, it drops to what, 14.2 or something like that. But you'd be surprised when it is it, yeah, 40, yeah. But the rigs are fine. The rigs will take 15 volts apparently, but once you start using them, they drop a little bit. But the LiPos are very good. Lead acid. Now the story about lead acid. I had one 12 volt 7 amp hour gel cell, which was unused but been sat on the shelf in my shack for several years. Charged it up and it seemed to hold its charge, but on the way whilst we're driving, as we're going through across Ireland, we're having a conversation about this one battery. Would it last? Would it survive? And then we decided, let's find a Halfords. So we found a Halfords in Omar. I bought another one. So we had two, put them in parallel, and they did okay. But the older one, you could tell, dropped off. It didn't last as long. Antennas are VDA antennas, which I'll leave to Tom to talk about. We've used those before. Tom will tell you about construction and how they work. Those are the rigs we used. And again, we used PC notebooks and WinTest. But you'll note there, we use screen shades. What we found when you operate from a tent, certainly an orange tent, you can't see the screen. So biggest fonts you can find on the logger, and then a screen shade just to allow you to see it, and it does seem to work okay. So the top right, you can see that shade. It's just a plastic shade we put over. At the back are the LiPos, two LiPos sat next to each other, and that's the FT897. The bottom picture is one of the tents that we had, and the two antennas on the beach. You can see how close we were. That was just about 100 feet, 50 yards or so from the cottage. Quite handy. Next slide, please. All right, antennas. So I'll go pass over to Tom now.
Right. Okay. Antennas now. Right. Okay. First slide, please. Right, we started off, in fact, the first aerial we put up was a G5RV on a fiberglass post, actually masked halfway down the wall of the churchyard. As Peter said, in fact, the neighbours were very quiet and they didn't complain about any RFI. And we didn't get any interference off the television sets either or any other private equipment. So that was quite good, actually. It went right down the aerial, quite long actually. It went right across the car park at the other side of the thing, and that worked well as a multi-band antenna. And in fact, it worked well. It was especially good on 80 meters actually in the evening. Yeah. All right. Let's go on to the next one, which is the next slide, please. Yes. Whoops. Yes. Okay, now, the locations we've got here, in fact, we're down on the sea, and if you notice, actually, from the little compass that's up there on the right-hand side, that from where we are positioned, Europe is down to the southeast, and in fact, we were on the beach there, so we had a bit of water in front of us, and we reasoned that that would be a good location for going into Europe. So we had our VDAs aligned so that they would project in a southeasterly direction, and that works very well. Now, in fact, try the next slide, please. Okay, there they go. We had VDAs for 15 meters and 20 meters located as near the sea as possible. We put them up on the poles, as we've indicated there. In fact, the 20 meter was on one of those fiberglass poles that we have from the club up at the farm, and they've got to be made actually to fairly strict dimensions. We fed the 20 meter with Ultraflex 7 coax from one of the tents and one of the radios, and basically you can see there from the layout. Now, one of the tricks about these aerials, and we'll get it on the next slide, if you just click over, actually, Roy, on the next one. Yes, There's the general shape of the thing. And there's a table, actually. You can actually see there's a table. We haven't got it here, but in fact, there's a table with the dimensions of the aerial showing the driven line and the reflector on it. And the actual dimensions of the antenna are quite important. And in fact, we have Peter here to thank for the very well constructed actual the elements of the aerial itself. Now, on the top right-hand corner, you will see where we had this erected. This was on the Inishman. Yes, indeed. And in actual fact, you will notice there's a sand slipway there beside the pier. And there was a rather sad tale about this slipway. You'll observe as well, in one of the photographs, there's a picture of a stake and a line going down, and it's right at the water's edge. Now, it was a warm day. This was the last day that we were supposed to be. This was when we were on Inishman. It was warm, and the sun was out, and Peter and Kieran were both in the tent. And we'd had rather a lot of Guinness the night before. And I fell asleep watching the tide come in, and it just came in that few extra feet. You can see where the line on the sand there is where the waves were coming up to, and the pin came out. And the last act of that particular session in Ishman was that the mast fell over and landed across the top of the tent. Fortunately, nobody was injured, but there were a lot of squeals of anguish from inside. At that point, we gave up, actually, and decided it was time to pack up and go home. But it's just it's a salutary warning. In fact, to get these vertical dipole arrays to operate well, you need to have them right down at the water's edge. And I'm trying to get a reference, actually, to a guy here, in fact, who's written some good papers on this. He's a French fella. Let's see if I can find him in the light here. Just talk among yourselves while I have a search.
That's mine.
Yeah, that's yours. I'm looking for mine. That must be yours as well. Perhaps this is why I can't find mine.
No, that's yours.
Is that mine? Oh, yes. Yes. Let's see. Yes, just talk among yourselves. Yeah, must be. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, this is what always happens in the best possible. Here we go. Yes, the call sign that you want to look up, if you want to look him up on the net, F4BKV. In fact, wrote a very good paper on the use of these things. And in actual fact, I would definitely recommend his write-up, in fact, if you want to get a feel for these antennas. And in fact, we'll talk about more about that when we get on. But the basic argument is you've got to have them within a quarter wavelength of the actual water's edge. Right. So you've got very little guying space. You see what I mean? Basically, a few meters actually at the most. And if you go much further back, you lose the whole benefit of the antenna. So you really need to be very close actually to the water's edge to get them to work well. But when they do work well, they've got a fantastic performance actually front to back, and they've got a good gain. So they're ideal. Yeah, let's have the next one. There are actually a few details. Yeah, there's the operation there essentially of the thing. You've got the coax coming in, you've got the driven element, the reflector, and you actually get the benefit from the water of actually the waves actually positively interacting with each other. So you get the high voltage part of the wave interacting positively with the other one. Anybody that understands Bragg diffraction will know what we're talking about there. Okay. So anyhow, that then is the theory of operation of them at the seashore. Nice, and keep that type of antenna right down at the edge of the water, and you'll do well. Elsewhere, they don't work as well. You've got again there a 5 or 6 dB. And a nice low radiation takeoff, 10 degrees or higher. And basically 10 to 14, 17 degrees, that's very good. And of course, it's good for in other words, it's good for DX. That's what you're really looking for there, is DX. And as I say, the distance has got to be about less than a quarter of a wavelength to get it to work well. Okay, next slide. Yeah, there are some of the performance figures, and I can't really see them there, but let me just read here what I've got on this bit of paper here. Yeah, you've got, in fact, again, about 6.8 dBs gain and a front to back of about 32 dBs. That's a front to back ratio. So if you look at the lobes on the far right hand side, you will see there's hardly anything going out the back. It's all going out the front. So it's a very good antenna from that point of view. The other big advantage of them is, of course, is the standing wave ratio. If you build them correctly, you've got a really nice low SWR right across the active part of the bands on each of the frequencies that they'll work on. I mean, we've used them up as far as 20 meters, 15 meters, but you can make them down at 10 meters, 17 meters, 12 meters. Of course, you're getting closer and closer to the water's edge at a quarter wavelength as you do that. But the standing wave is always, and it's got a nice slope bottom on it like that. So basically, they're going to be easy to tune. So they're good antennas for that. And as I say, you can set them up, and basically, because if you look at the shape of the sausage, it actually bulges out. You've got a very wide angle there in which that thing is going to be very effective as a forward radiator, probably 120 degrees or so, maybe more actually. So you don't need to turn the thing or anything. You just set it up, point it in that direction, and it's going to be good. So that's the performance of the VDA performance. Okay, next slide. Okay, operation and contacts. Well, let's see. Press the next one. Okay, let's talk about what we did then. In fact, band conditions were not ideal. They certainly weren't, actually. On the G5RV, I don't think we got anything on 10 meters. We may got one or two on 15, I can't remember. We did best on 40 and 20, and 80 was good on the G5RV. Getting the signal reports 5, 6, 5, 9, depended where they were. We found the LiPo batteries lasted longer than the lead acid, and as it says, there are more contacts made on 20 meters than 15 meters. And the G5RV was good on 80 meters in the evenings. I have to say, actually, in fact, it was quite interesting. I actually, were we about 150, 200, somewhere in that range of contacts, actually, in fact, during the time we were there. But remember, in fact, this was not a trial of strength to see how many stations we could work. It was quality rather than quantity. And shall we say, I mean, when we arrived, we put the station together and we looked at our watches and said, it's really time to slip down to the pub and let's go and see how the Guinness is. In fact, is it going to be okay? So, it was indeed. Yes, that's right. So when we got the G5, basically, oh yes, it's working. That's okay. We've got it. Yes, we know now. It's in good shape. Slip out to the pub. Come back. I think it's bedtime. Yes, we paced ourselves. So we all got up in the morning, had a nice leisurely breakfast, strolled across, actually, got the VDAs up, got the tents up, actually. It was quite windy, actually, although we didn't have much rain. There was quite a bit of wind, so getting the tents up and getting them sort of weather resistant, it took a bit of time. It was It could have been the effect of the Guinness, yes. Getting them up, actually. And then, in fact, we got started. And, of course, we had to have because I was always going to bed at night, in fact, suffering from the Guinness problem, I would sit outside. Peter and Kieran would be inside operating, actually, and I'd be sitting out watching that the guys didn't wash away in the surf the same as they did on the previous time. Also treating my headache. No, it wasn't quite that bad, actually, but we did we had quite a good time. So yeah, so that was really it, actually, in fact, and it was quite sad, really, when we had to pack up eventually and head back. So we had nice evenings. We had an evening in the hotel, and we ate. What did we eat the second night? I remember we ate in the club the one night, and the community centre.
We ate in the bar.
That's right. Yes, we did indeed. That's right. Yes, and we saw that we had a very convivial evening with the local people in there. Yeah, that's right. Yes, they were doing the country dancing and stuff. I thought Peter and Kieran did a great job in the Eva 3 step. So anyway, that was our operating. Next one, Roy. Yeah. So there we go. There was our list of that. There was areas of hits of QSO. So we had Finland, Estonia, Lithuania, lots of Poland, Europe. The conditions weren't that good. I would have expected with a VDA actually on 20 meters that we would have got a bit further actually with 100 watts in good conditions. We did get as far as Istanbul actually, and down there too. Is that the Azores or whatever it is down here in the bottom? Canaries, I think it is. Yes, that's right. So that was it. These were our sort of areas of hits. And of course, the 80 meters was mostly the UK. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Fine. Next. And that was it. Yeah. There's the, and we packed up and said sad farewells. And yes, that's right. And the QSL. Yes, that's it. Yes. Yes. Very good. So an enjoyable place and a nice spot actually for antennas there as well. A good spot to erect them. Nice and close to where we lived and good spot. Yeah. Okay. Right. One more. Press the button again. That's it, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, so we'll do some questions after the film, I think, if there are any. But as normally with these expeditions, we take cameras, obviously, our phones. I take a movie camera, and I end up being the one that films what Tom and Kieran get up to. You never see me on the film. So if we'll see. If you click on the thing for us, Roy. Well, the film's about 10 minutes or so. How's it going so far?
Magic.
Absolutely magic.
Yeah.
We made it.
What's this tough thing, this hairy thing that's at the bottom of your camera here? What is it?
Must be a little furry friend.
buy a second-hand car from any of these guys.
That was the PCs.
Okay, thanks Nigel. Okay, right, let me tell you a bit about what's going over here till you give us something. We came over on the boat this morning, and in fact there was quite a bit of swell actually. The boat was sort of hanging over at 30 degrees, rising and falling. Everybody was looking a little alarmed actually, but we made it safely to the island. And yeah, it's very nice here actually, really quiet and enjoyable. Very nice people actually on the island. This is a nice place to actually take a break. I definitely advise a holiday here if anyone's if anyone's interested. Right now, with a scientific drive here. See here. Right.
So you're going to put 3 guys on?
Well, I
Just temporarily. Let's have 3 guys on just to get it up in the air.
I have 4 stakes. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's good.
We're not going to let it go.
Okay.
Wasn't too bad. Okay, we've looked up everything.
That's pointing towards the south-east.
I'm going to leave that stone in the sand there.
Yes.
That gives us an idea where the time can end. I think that's what we're there. I'm not sure. The complete call is Echo Juliet 6, kilowatt Papa stroke portable. Over. Roger, Roger, Echo Juliet 6, kilowatt Papa portable.
CQ 20 meters.
This is the expeditions as they should be, eh? All right. Yeah, absolutely. We do the heavy lifting.
We'll have to bring Carsten with us, he's better at this than
CQ 20 meters from Tory Island, North Donegal, Echo Uniform 121 and listening for calls. Echo Juliet 6 Kilo Papa. The name here is Tom, Tango Oscar Mike, and your RS is today is 5959. Over.
Thank you for 5 and 9. You're 5 and 7, Tom. Sorry. Can you tell me the island name? Over.
The island is called Tory Island. Tango Oscar Radio Yankee. Tory Island, and it's in Echo Uniform 121 off the northwest coast of Donegal in Ireland. Over.
Yeah, Roger, Tom. Thank you very much. Echo Uniform 121, Tory Island. Very beautiful. The name here is Goose. Uniform Sugar. Goose is the name, located 36 kilometers west from Vienna. Your real report 5 and 7, Tom. Over.
Okay, thank you very much for the 5 and 7.
But I might even have been able to do that one.
If my luck will hold, I'll have the gold summer others flying. Break the hearts of Gavin men. Talk with me a while.
There's Barney from the banks of the Lee. There was Hogan from County Tyrone. And there was Snugger too, who was drunk as a rule. And a chap from Westmeath all alone. And that Harold dog was thrilled. I'm not the Irish rover.
That's his own tune. I've never heard that. Have you not? Oh God, that music thing, that's so that tune, no, the tune, I've not heard the words. Oh, yeah.
I'm the last of the Irish rover.
Right, is this working okay? Yes, it's working. Right. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was one thing you can see. We had a great load of fun. It was a great session, and we're kind with the weather as well. It was more wet on the inside than the outside. So, any question? If you flip to the next one, next slide, please. Any questions? Anything that we haven't covered, or you need to know about, or wish to ask? Yeah. Any online? Anybody on the internet? Anyone on the internet want to make a comment?
How many gallons of Guinness did you go through?
Numerous.
Okay, well, as I say, like all good adventures, at the end of it all, we're driving back and we're thinking, right, where we're going next year. So we're planning on going to the Aran Islands. Now, the Aran Islands are a group of 3 islands off Galway. And we've been to Inishmaan, which is where you saw the VDA shots that Tom was showing about by the thing. That was they were taken in Inishmaan. So we're going to go to Inishsheer this next year. So watch out for probably another lecture, another load of films. One thing that I need to just reference before I go, the camera. If you're not a member of the CDXC, which is the Chiltern District DX Club, they're the one. Yeah, what we're doing? Put the camera on it, right? That's CDXC. It's a club that's run, and it's only about £18 a year to join. But you get a booklet all about the expeditions, and you get the inside line about all the planning that they do. And I mean, these are big expeditions that we're talking about, not the ones. Although it does include occasionally ones like ours, but it's definitely worth looking it up and joining, because they fund the monies they get. They fund the others' expeditions so other people can actually work them. So, okay, yeah, but we'll put a link on. We'll send a link with the stuff. I don't know if Roy's. Do you need to meet?
I'm lost.
No, okay, don't worry.
Hang on. Okay.
We'll put a link. We can put a link on the website. But it's just a CDXC. Several of us are members of CDXC.
Right.
But yeah, they promote expeditions. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll hand over to Tony and to tie the ribbons. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Pete and Tom and Kieran, who's not here. But hear me there, Roy.
Stop sharing. Did have a comment from looks like they had a lot of fun and Guinness.
I think that's about it, isn't it? I think it's one of those things you can take to and get carried away with it to a certain extent. But it looks fun. It looks fun. So anyone who's got any time, if you go to doing nothing for a week or so, but no doubt the guys will accommodate you if they're going anywhere. Just make sure you got your seasick tablets with you. I think the last time I went across to Ireland was on the fast cap from Dublin, from Holyhead rather. Only going across there, we're actually leaving our seat by about 3 or 4 inches. It was that rough. Yeah. It wasn't the fact of being sick over there. My backside was sore from keep getting clobbered on the seat coming up and hitting you. I've never been on a ship like that before. And then yeah.
Rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have any.
No, they don't. No, they being that catamaran, they don't lean the same. But yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, we were over there for a week working over there, and yes, I didn't sit down for the first couple of days. It was that so. But a nice video, Pete. Nice well put together. A pleasure to watch it, and I hope everyone else has enjoyed it as well. Any comments at all regarding the club or anything at all while we're here?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Thanks to Pete, Tom, and Kieran, wherever he may be. It reminds me of the trips we've done to Arranmore and all that salt water and Guinness. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be drinking the salt water though, Bernard.
Watching it.
Thank you to all the virtual watchers as well. Don't know we don't know that Nigel's got them all over there. What we will do, we will look at expanding on this and put another screen up so we can actually see the virtual people as well. Unfortunately, like I say, this is still in its trial, so hopefully we can add to it. We'll turn our treasure upside down, get some money out of him, and get some kit, and we'll try and get. I don't think we're putting big screens up like the BBC and ITV, where they have the curved screens around. But we'll certainly try and put another projector up with a screen on, so you can see who's out there and joining him. That's the next move. That's the next move. But I'm actually in communication with Walthy regarding doing some additions in here, so we can actually do that. Until then, keep watching this space, as they say. Has everyone had the letter through the post regarding the EGM? They were all posted. We posted them all out a couple of weeks back. If you haven't received one, there's some on the table here. Grab one. If you haven't received one, then we haven't got your correct address, your correct postal address. Please let us keep us updated with your postal address and your email addresses. That's the only way we can communicate with you. Apart from sending the hot air balloon up with a message on. Pardon? Oh no, the dirty beggars they are. You see all their droppings all over the road where you have to drive around them. Yeah. Yeah. There we are. Is that going out, Roy? Oh, are you? Oh, 2 ways. So, any comments from our virtual watchers? Andrew's gone.
I think the audio was an issue earlier on, but you're obviously well aware of that. But towards the end, it seemed to be coming through very, very well indeed. And I guess to begin with in the introduction or in the period before it started, let's be putting it, then the microphone was on the table and really just couldn't get a gist of what was going on in the room. But there's discussions to be had, I think. But overall, I enjoyed the session, and the media looks good. And thanks to Roy for directing things.
I say it was a trial. We did actually a trial on Sunday, Bernard, and we might have got it go working. And we've added a couple of bits of equipment from what we had on Sunday to try and enhance the audio a bit. So, how did you find it?
To begin with, there's an issue. Are they shouting louder, Tony? But you're the loudest one coming through. You're a good 5 and 9 plus 20. And right. I'm surprised you actually quietened Tom down so much as well. I never heard him so quiet.
Well, he was doing that. He was doing a bit of waving like that with a hand microphone. I've got a headband microphone on, so it doesn't move. It's alongside me.
Yeah, I need to know how you quieten him down before we have our meetings.
Yeah, you get that Doppler shift with Tom. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's not been on Guinness yet. Yeah, but it's you found it all right, did you, Bernard?
So it's fine now. In fact, a bit louder. I've turned my gain up here, and I put my headphones on.
Right.
And then somebody fixed the sound, and then knocked my head off. So at the end, it was coming through very, very well. And
how were the videos?
What was the video like, Bernard? Was that nice and clear? Or Ian might be able to come in as well as on that.
Well, he had two videos, and obviously he had difficulty with the first one. But once that settled down, it was fine. And Peter's was excellent. Thanks, Peter.
Good. Ian, are you still with us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Yeah. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was very good. The video, first we had the hiccups, but then everything was all right. It's great.
Same with the audio. We actually enhanced the audio since Sunday when we had a trial run, so we're hoping it was a bit better.
Yeah, at the start the audio was, I think people were speaking away from the microphone, but then it cleared up and it was great.
Yeah, I think next time what we'll do is just get them to wear these headband microphones like I've got on now, because that way the microphone's moving with you. It's moving with you.
When it was quiet, Tony, when it's quiet with people, there was some clipping of the words taking place. Once you fixed the audio and it was a lot louder, that seemed to get round the problem. But earlier on, some of the words were clipped.
Yeah, I think the thing is there, Bernard, if you've got a hand mic and you're moving it all the time, you've got you can't do it with this headband. I don't know if you can see what I've got on here. This headband microphone, it's actually fixed. It's actually fixed, and you can't move it, so it's there permanently alongside you. It's the sort of thing that they use on the TV in plays and so forth. And there's also a lapel microphone you can clip on. There's also another one that they use as well, which actually, if you've got a hairpiece, it actually fits in the hairpiece. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've no hair for it to fit in, so I've got it around my ears instead. I think these the way forward actually with this is by wearing these headband microphones, and that way it doesn't move at all. It's there stationary with you. Glad you enjoyed it out there in the wilds. I hope you didn't get drunk with your drinking out there, because we can't see what you were doing. So I think it's time. Now the only thing is now the blooming Floyd's pub has gone on it. Otherwise, could have gone and carried on in there. Could have got a pint. But I say, well, thank you very much indeed, everyone. It's been a pleasure to see you all down here, and also thank you to the virtual watchers. And hopefully, in the near future, we might be able to get you down here and join in with us with the presentations. Thank you very much indeed.
Can I just add as well while Ian's on the air? So again, well done for the G5 RP trophy. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Well done.
Yeah. Congratulations, Ian.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to wait. You have to wait another 12 months now, so you get it back again.
No, it's a one-time only.
Ah, give over. Give over. Yeah. From what you were saying on Twitter, all the spare time you've had. What kit have you got over there?
I've got a Yaesu 991.
Right. Not without a few whiskies then. Yep.
He'll be having a few whiskeys. I don't know about knocking them out.
Yeah. I think it's that bewitching time. It's time for a brew. I think more so with Tom and Pete. I think they're ready for a brew with all the talk they've done. But again, thank you very much indeed, guys. We are looking at running a raffle. It will be. We've got to sort the prizes out for it, but it's not going to be expensive. We won't be asking for a lot, but they're all prizes worth winning. And I was going to say thank you to ICOM, Yaesu, Moonraker, well, are we doing it again? Yeah.
It's not online. It's not going out.
Right.
Just want to get a photograph of two of them in front of that.
Too much.
It's also when you think about it, two documents. Yeah, to be able to swap between the two. The way I would do it is get your desktop and two monitors and move the one just onto the monitor, the one that's projecting beside it, and just connect it onto it. And then when you want to go to the other one, just slide that in back. I've tried to do that. Oh, well, we're down to two monitors. I know, I've got another monitor, an extension for this one. So it can extend your desktop. We need another VGA. Okay. Gotcha. Well, so we don't have a VGA? No VGA. No. What changing the cameras? Changing the slides. That's where it stopped. Yeah. If we got this. Well, let's go to okay. Yeah. You know, it's stuttering. Yeah. I think that I didn't have the acceleration on the WebEx.
This is reality. This is still the
No, I'd change it to the. I just thought for the change it. Right, so if I go look instead. Yeah, the ones are road. Let's see if I can remember if we go. I'm looking for the ones. Yeah. We've got 14 members. No, right. 3, 4. So next question is, have you uploaded? No. So you're on. How much you must have sent it? I would have improved it. Oh, I don't know. Okay. No, I don't know. So they not divide food. I said everything else. They give you so now we can upload. So API, get an API. And then you upload. There you can either go in. Well, two issues.
Yeah.
What I can't do with Tom is I figured out that one, the one
For this, for the hand mic, yeah, that's right.
I kept turning it up to get so every time we moved it.
That's down.
No, or we get around to wrong.
Well, it's a boundary mic. I mean, the
Are you?
I think we've proved. We've proved we could do it. That's the main thing. We've proved it could be done. Yet we knew there was going to be little bits and niggly things in it, that we had to overcome. But at the end of the day, it works. It works. And the next one is the EGM. It'll only be one presenter anyway. That'll be Nigel, so he can wear the headband microphone. Right. So it's a case of switching from camera to camera.
No, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get stuck on that line. So that's one of the overall thing.
I'll agree with that.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, you've got to stop sharing. Stop sharing. That goes back to the screen you were already on previously.
Calculate.
Yeah. Is it?
It will show.
Is it a case of you think? Change the cameras are going over to a selector, so it's just one camera.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I've got another one of them coming to replace that.
Downside is light in there.
Right. Yeah, I'm having these. We're looking at having these three here. A separate switch. So we just turn those three off. So the other two rows will still be on. These three here will be off on the screen. So hopefully that might cure it. That's all we can do. I mean, even if you have even if it just having these three switched off doesn't work in this case, it will work with just ordinary presentations here. We're not putting them out via WebEx. If we're just having them here, at least take that glare off the screen and really shut these off. Like I say, it's all trial. It's all trial. We're not professional, don't professional mean it's a case of playing around with it. So you get it right. Get close to it. I mean, if you want a professional job, then you better get about 20, 30 grand out of your pocket. Well, that's it, mate. That ain't bloody cheap. That's not cheap, not by a long way. Not by a long way. You start looking at some of the professional kit. I mean, the mixers that I used to use when we're doing the outside PA, we had a big one by that, about 16 into 2, 16 inputs, 2 outputs. And that's what back output because you had, and then you had an effects line in and out, so you could actually put effects on the audio as well.
When you put it just 4 into 2.
It's actually 6 into 2. That one doubles up because you've got left and right, so you can actually separate them. Right. Same with those two. What they do is line 3 and 4 is actually line 3, line 4.
You can fit the time, whatever.
Line 5, line 6. So all you're doing is you're separating your left and right. These are balanced inputs, they're unbalanced. Right, so basically what it is, there's no screen on that. The screen is actually part of the circuit. With these, the screen is grounded. So you've got less chance of any noise. Yeah. Anyway, let's try noise pick up with them. It makes it. They do. This is all we do, and all these are oxygen-free cables. You know what I mean? They're not cheap with these. These are these.
I'm assuming